Before leaving on my next adventure, I had the privilege of seeing a World War I trench engine not far from my home. Stay tuned to see why an old steam engine is significant to our story. Welcome back, friends. We're starting this adventure on Forest Service Road 13S05 in Sequoia National Forest. The road heads north through a mixed forest of oak, ponderosa pine, and incense cedar, with views of Hume Lake below. Between 1908 and 1917, the narrow gauge tracks laid along this roadbed supported the weight of shay locomotives, which pulled 8 to 10 cars of logs behind them. This area was decimated by the 2015 Rough Fire, which burned 151,000 acres of forest. The trees are making a comeback, but the forest won't be as lush and beautiful as it was in our lifetime. The road ends after 7 miles in the Evans Grove, even though another half-mile of rail bed was cleared past there. But logging operations ceased in 1918, so the track was never laid. We are 1.1 miles in on 13S05 at a junction which is the site of the old Hume Bennett Lumber Camp number 1. There weren't any sequoia groves here, but they did cut pine and fir in this area. Camp 1 had a Y, which is a track configuration where a steam engine could be turned around. At 2.3 miles, the old railroad grade crosses Tornado Creek, a small tributary to 10 Mile Creek. And 10 Mile Creek helps feed Hume Lake. The Hume Bennett Lumber Company established Camp 2 here during the summers of 1909 and 1910. A small spur to the right, along the creek, was also installed here. This is the only thing I see that remotely resembles a spur. It is to the right, and it is just past Tornado Creek. When the Sequoia National Forest bought this land in 1935, they had the Civilian Conservation Corps clean up the old logging camps. There isn't any trace of the old logging camps today. The purpose of this trip is to try and find the elusive yarder that I've been searching for over the last few months. A yarder is a piece of logging equipment that uses a system of cables to pull logs from the stump to a collection point. Last month, I spent the night where Camp 7 used to be and started my search from there. Although I was unsuccessful in finding the yarder, I did find other items of historical interest. You can see that excursion in Season 4, Episode 27 on my channel. Here at Mile 4 was the site of Camp 4, which sat on this rocky promontory. Camp 4 was established in 1915 and was the upper terminus of a 1,500-foot incline where a Rob Roy hoist winched cut logs out of the steep canyon below. At 5 miles, you enter the Lockwood Grove of big trees. This small grove has about 80 to 90 mature trees, with some being quite tall. The railroad reached this area in 1915, but most of the trees were spared because proper logging claims were not filed. Without a proper title, the Hume Bennett Lumber Company only had permission to build the railroad through the grove, not cut the trees. I kept trying to imagine what this route would have been like on a steam engine during my journey. book, they felled the redwoods.
Mm-hmm.
Right over here, it shows a hoist track.
No, that's here.
Down
That's
this
right.
way.
That's right here. I know where it shows it, but it's not quite right, because
Okay.
that's what you're going to hike down. It is a very flat, steep for a long ways. You know, the book, the guy that did the maps in '68, pre-GPS, and
Okay.
I think it was because I've
'Cause he
looked
had
for
it.
something. Yes, you're right,
And
but
it
it's actually close to parallel to
Oh,
S4E29.
yeah.
It's going down kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they put it on the left side of Windy Gap instead of the right side. So
And I don't know what Windy Gap is. What's Windy Gap?
there's a creek right through the meadow. Have you been to the meadow?
Well, going left, like
Yeah.
you said.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
So there's a creek that runs through there.
Right.
That's Windy Gap. So,
okay, well then
so
that's
where
this, because if I'm not mistaken, you can see where the road is up here.
I didn't see a junction, but I went left, and it took me through the meadow.
Yeah.
And getting
Yeah.
through there is where I got pretty beat up.
Yeah, it's worse when you turn right and go down it because the incline is really steep.
Well, that's why I wore pants
And,
this time.
yeah, and it was so high a year ago, so I'm sure at least
But on the other side of the meadow, there's all kinds of cable. I saw railroad ties.
Yep. And like I said, you'll go over what on a motorcycle is a fun whoop-de-doo, a number of those, and then after probably half the distance, three or 4/10 of a mile at least, you get to the steep vertical down, and then you have a little bit more of, it's still a bit rugged, but it's not as steep until you get to a large flat area. And the steam engine, the boiler's gone. It's a 2-cylinder, one on each side, horizontal cylinders. The heads have been taken by people and other parts that can be removed. But most of the cylinder and multiple drums, the 2 long rods of steel rods to support the boiler, if it was still there, are still there. Okay. So you'll see those big things sticking up. Maybe because this road's been open, maybe people have been going to it, and they'll have tramped it down, and you'll see a trail there.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Well, that's the way.
I bumped into the man on the motorcycle when I stopped to assess if there was enough room to squeeze by the downed tree. He was able to confirm that I was on the right track this time. Let's hope I find the yarder. I'm back again, as promised. I'm actually in the same spot I parked in last time. Unbeknownst to me, I went north when I should have went east. But I have more research and more intel from the guy on the motorcycle. So let's go find the yarder. Here's the junction I came to in the last video, where I said it looked like something man-made, perhaps a railroad grade. I should have went east, not north. That's the correct route.
have to try and get through this. I know the video isn't picking it up, but I can see the yarder. Now I have to get to it and get back before dark. Man, that's a long way down. It's at the base of the tree in the center of the video. There it is.
These early yarders were steam-powered. They traveled on skidways, also known as dummy lines. The felled trees were dragged or skidded to the railroad, where they were loaded onto rail cars and taken to a mill. Each cable was approximately 1,000 feet in length. Once the logs were attached and a clearance signal was sent for retrieval, the logs could be skidded at a speed of 1,000 feet per minute, which is around 10 miles per hour. I'm sitting here trying to picture what this spot looked like 100 years ago. On one hand, I'm ashamed of what we did to these groves of big trees. But on the other hand, I'm amazed at what must have been an engineering accomplishment at that time. I doubt the loggers themselves realized the impact they were making on this land. For all they knew, there were more of these big trees just over the next hill. Remember, it was a different time back then. The country was growing rapidly after World War I, and wood was in desperate need to meet the demands for building materials.
I have a decision to make after leaving the yarder. I can either try and find a less strenuous route, or I can climb to the top of that ridge where the railroad grade is. I came down from that ridge and I'm leaning towards hiking back up to the top. The reason why is because the sun's starting to set, and if I have to hike out of here in the dark with my headlamp, the railroad grade will be a lot easier to follow. If I try to find a less strenuous route, I could just be wandering aimlessly in the dark. So, up we go. I left this on my way down as a waypoint to help me try and find the way back.